name is Tala. I'm Lebanese. I joined the Brunel MBA program back in September 2022, and I graduated in 2023. My career journey really changed before and after the MBA, mainly because I was based in Lebanon, and Lebanon is quite a small market in comparison to the United Kingdom. And so I mainly worked in smaller organizations, and my whole goal was to shift into corporate, and the MBA was a great program to do that, especially when you want to do it outside of your home country and in a country that has so much opportunity. And so now I work in one of the biggest FMCG companies in the world, and so there was a huge shift prior to the MBA and post MBA. The first is I wanted a business school and MBA program that was well accredited. I was in Lebanon, and my university wasn't top ranking, but it was very highly accredited, and that's what opened the doors for getting into a business school, an international business school that's also high ranking. So accreditation for me was very important, and I know that Brunel has to accredit. Its MBA program is twice accredited from two different organizations, and it's high ranking. And also you get a quality education without having to spend Oxford or Cambridge or University of London fees. So you get equal opportunities for an equal quality for a much more flexible budget. Yeah. So these were the points. Yeah. As a class representative, I learned two things. I learned something about myself, and is that I can truly lead and drive impact, something I didn't know, and I can influence something that I didn't know. And then externally, I realized that you have to have an open ear and listen and be there for people, and trying to satisfy multiple groups with multiple ideas. It can be quite challenging, but I learned that as long as you have an open ear and open heart, you can do it. So I learned two things. The MBA teaches you how to drive impact and how to influence and how to really present yourself. And so and you have to have the same skill set as a class rep. I would say professionally, it's not generally speaking a challenge, but rather a skill that I found challenging. And in my past profession, I didn't really work with data or think strategically. And after doing my MBA, it really taught me that you need strategic thinking, you need to work with data, you need to refer to proper information to be able to actually make a decision, and that's something that I didn't, or I found challenging, and I can take on a lot easier post MBA. The key skill really is how to find information, and I think people don't really mention that, but where and how you find information is extremely essential. It was the pillar of our MBA, especially when we're doing assignments, and you take that on when you're working in a corporate environment, especially in a sales function, which is what I do. You need to be able to speak to customers and give them valid information that you find from external databases. And post MBA, prior to the MBA, you kind of Google anything and just take that information without actually finding the source. And I think it's really important in your life in general, because you learn through reading and through information that people post. And so I learned that. Second of all, I learned how to present. We presented a lot in the MBA, and that helped a lot. And how to structure an assignment, how to structure a project, how to structure a presentation, how to have impact, how to look at things from a bird's eye view, because the MBA is more entrepreneurial skills rather than the more focused master's degree. And so all these, they seem so technical and seem so educational, but especially in my work, it's really essential. All these skills are actually extremely essential to be able to do a good job in your professional career. Yeah, it definitely prepared me, and it's because when I did the MBA, I think I would have found it a lot more challenging if I was in Lebanon and directly entered the job market in the UK, because when I did my MBA, you learn about how multicultural the UK is, how people think, how people work. All these are extremely important to be able to actually get into a professional career in a completely different country. I wouldn't say it's so much a challenge, but a surprise is how there's so many cultures, because in Lebanon is considered, I don't like to say a third world country or a developing country, and so not a lot of, it's mostly, I worked with mostly Lebanese people from Lebanon. While coming to the UK, it's so multicultural. There's people from all over the world. It's not challenging. It was surprising, and it really opens you up, and I really enjoyed that aspect. And I learned it from the MBA as well, being around my colleagues from all over the world. So I think being aware that the first step is being aware that people are different, and being open-minded and trying to find a middle ground. I think that's the most important thing. The mistakes I did when I was younger is thinking that everybody thinks like me. And that is definitely not the case. And that doesn't mean that I'm right or they're right, or I'm wrong and they're wrong. No, it's just finding that middle ground. And you learn that a lot in the MBA and in your professional career as well, working in such a multicultural environment. I think that was one of my biggest challenges getting into the job market, is that I'm not a UK citizen and that I would need work sponsorship. The good thing is, after you graduate your MBA, you do get a 2-year graduate visa. And in that 2 years, you have the opportunity to work in any company without having to be sponsored. And companies, and I came, when I was first looking at jobs, I used to always be I lacked confidence, because I knew that I felt that I had something missing, and that was a UK like a citizenship. And I think that was a mistake that I did. I think that if companies here are willing to sponsor you, even if they've never done it before, if you can actually show that you're gonna do the job and you're gonna drive impact in the organization, they will be willing to sponsor you. And I think just speaking about it freely and openly, and in a way that it's not something that you lack in your skills and in your skill set and experience. It's just something that's more technical. It's a technicality rather than something missing in you. I think going in that mindset is really important. And I think opening the door, so just getting into the job market, even if the company is not going to sponsor you, I think is really important, because you have to open that door, and it opens other doors into companies who are actually willing to sponsor. And again, the UK, there's millions of people working here. Not everybody has a British citizenship, and they're working and they're being sponsored. So understanding that it's actually more common than you think, I think that's very important. It's one thing that I learned. Understanding that the little decisions you make have a much greater impact on the whole organization. And this is what you learn in the MBA. It's those little choices you make in business that will drive the biggest impact. And I think I learned that any decision I make in my day-to-day work life, in my mind, I have to remember that it will have a great impact, no matter how small it is. And I think just thinking strategically, thinking long-term, and how to gather data and information, and how to read the data and information, and make it and come up with a decision based on what you've been presented. I think these skills you learn in the MBA, and we had a lot of real life projects, real life situations that really helped, and analyzing and assessing. I think that's really important. Call me boring, but and I've seen this with a lot of students, especially when you come to the UK, you want to explore everything, you want to do everything, you want to travel everywhere. And when I did this decision to do my MBA, I was like, there's a time and a place. I'm doing my MBA, I'm going to focus on that, I'm going to get really good grades, because that affects what happens after you graduate, and then I'll experience and travel after doing that. And I think just focusing on your MBA, not thinking about what job you're gonna get after, if you can get a job, just shutting off all this background noise and actually just taking it step by step. And I think that's so important. And I did that. Not everybody is going to be able to do that. Some people have. I was very lucky that I didn't have to work to make an income, but those who can really just focus on getting the best grades, really learning, really driving impact to themselves and to their class, I think just focusing on that is really important. You have to keep in mind that you're competing against the best of the best. Hands down, if you're gonna apply for a job, there's 200 people applying for that same job. And I'll tell you something, practice makes perfect. I did a lot of interviews with really big organizations, and I failed miserably, and I went through this whole depression. I'm like, I'm not good enough. I can't compete against these people who graduated from God knows where, Oxford, Cambridge, and have backgrounds in these really big multinational companies like EY and PwC and P&G and Uni. I never had that. I really never had it. You see my CV, it's really not basic, but it's from companies that you've never heard of. And I lived in Lebanon, and now I'm working for the biggest FMCG, and I can tell you this, if you want it, you will get it. You have to really be hungry. And I give advice to everybody when you're doing interviews, show your true self, really show your true self, and show how hungry you are and how much you actually want this job and how much you can drive impact. And you can, as long as you want it, it'll come out in interviews. And be yourself. Have conversations. When I was doing interviews, I was like reading online what I should say and what's the right thing to say, and I always failed because my true personality never came out. And after just going like, screw it, I don't care anymore, and I really showed my personality and how much I wanted this, I knew I was able to get it. And that's just the mindset. It's really challenging. You have to keep getting at it, and you have to choose the right job as well. Don't apply everywhere. You have to really get it tunnel focused. I worked in the FMCG companies. I loved it. I applied to FMCG companies in positions that I have experience in, and sometimes starting out. Before SC Johnson, I had a job prior, and it was in a small company in the UK, and the salary wasn't that amazing, but I'm like, let me go for it. You learn from it. Just because you graduated with an MBA doesn't mean you're going to get a 60K salary from the get-go and work with these multinational organizations, and that's what people were doing. That's what some of my colleagues were doing, just going high and up. You need that basic experience in the country to be able to open up other doors. So I think that's the advice that I would give.